Welcome back to another episode of Mystery Garage. In today's episode, it's part 2 of taking our all-around VR6 Mk1 and turning it into a dedicated drag car. Let's jump into it. Alright, welcome back to today's episode. It's going to be a good one. We got lots of stuff to do. So again, we're carrying on with part 2 of getting this car a little bit more set up to take out to the track. There's also been some developments I want to talk to you guys about today that we discussed last episode that we need to make some changes potentially to. In the end of last week's episode, we talked about how I need to get some bolts for that 1.8T. I've got those. We're all set up. We're ready to go. And also before today's out, that seat that's up on the counter there, we're definitely going to get that installed in this car. So let's get to work. All right, so as you can see here on the counter, I got quite a few things set up for today's episode. Underneath here, we got a black carpet for the front half of the interior. I got an older dash, and we'll talk about why I'm gonna go with that in a few minutes. We got a racing seat, which we're gonna throw in. I love this thing. I talked about it last episode. These seats are extremely light. You can definitely just pick it up with one finger. Not a lot of work. And the difference between this seat and the seats in the car is gonna make a significant difference just to the weight as well as my comfort. The seat is extremely comfortable. Next up, what do we got? I bought some metal to make sure we can make a proper base for this thing. Also have some SLICKS here that I bought a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna talk about that. That comes into some change that we may make to the car that I discussed last week. As well as I went out and this is just one of the bolts, but I went and grabbed the proper bolts to hang that 1.8T on the engine stand. So we're gonna get to do that today as well. We got a lot of stuff planned for this car. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. All right, so let's discuss the interior in this car. So this is a 1982 North American Rabbit L. So the interior is entirely blue. I don't have a problem with the blue. I actually really like it, but I kind of don't really want to ruin it for the sake of making a drag car out of it. So I'm actually going to pull most of the interior out of this car and save it because everything's in pretty good condition. Door cards are pretty nice. Dash is pretty nice. The one thing that I want to make a change, and I showed you guys earlier with the early dash, I was never really been a big fan of the cosmetics of this dash, but nevertheless, this dash is in really good shape. It's got a lot of extra plastics and stuff that we don't really need. One of the other things that really bothers me is because I don't have a heater in this car, there's a lot of stuff kind of missing behind the dash. So this dash actually rattles quite a bit, and it really bothers me because this engine, you know, I have some firmer engine mount, so it does create a bit of vibration, and the dash rattles a ton. Plus, you can see where these gauges are set up. This is the insert for a later model Mk1, and I really prefer the early dash for making a drag racing dash, and I'll kind of show you guys why. So we're gonna go ahead and take this entire interior out. These are the seats from the Jetta that we actually put in. That's why they don't match the backs. But we're gonna go ahead and gut the car. Basically, all the stuff, partial shelf, speaker trays, all that stuff's coming out. Carpet's coming out, door cards coming out, seats coming out. We're gonna go ahead and clean out this entire interior. All right, just one more thing before we get into stripping the interior. I just wanna quickly discuss why I'm choosing to go with an earlier dash. There's actually quite a few reasons. The biggest one being this is a vastly simpler dash. It doesn't have any of the lower plastics. It doesn't have any complicated stuff. The gauge area is just this one particular section, which really keeps this dash clean. So any modification we make, we're gonna make to this particular section. This section, we're just gonna leave all alone. And let me explain myself with that. As you can see in the car currently, this dash has a ton of under dash plastic. The gauge section actually comes across here in a lot bigger way and then down this particular section, which is completely unneeded. Right here, where I was intending to put 3 gauges, I'm also going to carry over to the other dash, and we're going to place them right here. Now also the other difference is you remember that the later Mark II is just a smooth gauge panel. We're actually going to go with this dash because I can actually pop these out, which we will at a later date. We're not going to do that today. And we can put some odometer slip-ins to make these gauges all match and all function exactly what we need to see. One will obviously be a tack of some kind, and then we'll put whether it's a speedometer or something else in the future here. And then over here, we can have what currently is the oil pressure gauge, have a boost gauge, and have one other gauge, probably air fuel, to be honest with you. So we'll have that all set up. Also, we can have some override switches in here, such as fan control override. I can put my fuel pump in here if I wanted to, and definitely have some options for switches in the future. And like I said, we don't have a heater box in this car right now anyways, so having this control in the other dash is also useless, but I did throw it in there for aesthetics just to look factory. So this one we're probably going to blank off. One of the other things I should address is this dash is not mint. I pulled it from my spares pile. You can see right here it's got some imperfections. It's got a little crack here on the back of the dash. There's a crack there, and it's got some waviness to it. So I'm not going to be ruining a good dash. This is just one of my spares. It's got some fade here. Somebody had drilled a hole at some point in time, painted over the trim, and actually this was broken originally. Somebody had some tape on it, but I actually just replaced this little mechanism on the glove box, and it closes up real nice now. So anyway, we're not going to be ruining a really good dash. What I actually want to do with this is fix up all the imperfections and actually flock this dash. So this will actually fix all these cracks and that sort of thing, and then flock the whole thing. I've always wanted to have a drag dash that was flocked. I want to try it for the first time on this channel. We'll see how it works out. But anyway, that's the plan with that dash. And it'll kind of go with the black carpet and the whole theme of going black up in the front. But we got a lot of work to do on this car, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get this interior pulled out. All right, big update here. So we got the interior out, and to be honest, this part probably hurt my feelings the most. And the reason why is this interior is mint. It has everything. It has, you can see why I want to keep it. All the blue belts, all the blue pieces, no broken plastic, even the blue rubber e-brake piece. You got the console for the automatic, which I've converted to manual. All this stuff, blue door cards, blue carpet, blue seats. All the straps are intact. Even these pieces, which if you guys know what these are little corner pieces where the kick plate goes. All this fabric is still perfect. If you ever taken apart a carpet, usually this is all deteriorated. The glue, the carpet had never been lifted. Even I just lifted this part on the edge to run the power cord from the back battery that I had remotely mounted. Today was the first day this carpet has ever been removed from factory. Sorry, I threw the seat in just to see what I was dealing with, but you can see all the glue. I actually ended up peeling up some of that sound deadening that was there. We'll do a cleanup. Let me pull the seat out for a second. All right, there we go. As you can see, all the glue all around, even all the tacks held the carpet down. I did lift up that sound deadening, and this is just needs to be cleaned. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that. I did make an executive decision. I'm gonna actually run the front and the back black carpet just to kind of clean this up. I really don't like that glue look. And I don't wanna spend all the time right now cleaning all that glue up. We'll do that at a later date when we do some chassis prep inside. Like when it comes to, if we get down the road, do a cage, we'll do a full cleanup inside, clean all the floors and probably do some sort of interior floor paint. But right now the chassis in the back is looking pretty clean, so I'm not too worried about that. It's just the part underneath the carpet, which after we do a cleanup, a vacuum, that sort of thing, it'll be just fine for now. The biggest focus right now actually is these seats. We'll worry about the dash another day because I want to flock the dash. Like I said, I don't want to go without a dash for now. So right now we're going to focus on these seats. I went and got this seat from Stepchild. This seat is probably the worst seat I have. I have a bunch of seats in storage. This one by far is the worst. It just is completely trashed. So I'm going to go ahead and gut this seat. I'm going to take apart the base. Then I'm going to use the box tubing I bought here to come up with some sort of mounting solution. You can get those like universal plates for mounting seats, but I really wanted to be in control of how mine sits. The biggest thing is this seat is a slight layback. However, I got to remember I'm sitting in the seat with a helmet on, and you want good distance between the top of your head with the helmet on and the roof of the car. So I'm going to have to find that perfect position for me, and I want to set it up where it's built for me. It's not something that I tried to take a universal kit and make it fit. I want to make this fit for me specifically. And I want the adjustability of sliding the seat forward and back. So what we got here is the base. So I'm going to go ahead and gut the base, clean up as much as we can, and then I'm going to, this is a non-sport seat, so these aren't adjustable. So I'm probably going to, I can pretty much guarantee I'll be clipping those off and then using this, and this to create the seat base so I can have the slider. The only thing is I need to keep the points in reference. These two bottom pieces need to be exact reference to this the whole time, because if it falls out of whack or that piece turns, it's not going to sit in the track or glide in the track properly. So I'm going to have to kind of almost reinforce as I cut it apart to make sure, much like cutting a roof off a car, if you're going to top chop it or whatever, you need to make sure the reference points stay locked, so that way no matter any kind of modifications, it will still always work in the end. So we're going to jump into time lapse, and I'm going to actually start to take care of this. I haven't really fully thought this through yet about how I'm going to make this work, so this is going to get interesting. So let's jump into time lapse and I will figure this one out. All right, it is now 2 days later and we finally got this sorted out. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. There was a ton of like engineering I had to do to get this to figure out. As you saw in the previous clip of the time lapse, I got it down to where I made it basically into, more or less a T shape. And then I was able to put it in the car. I had to do a ton of test fitting, which is why I didn't do a whole lot of footage on that part, because I had to do test fitting. I had to sit in the car. I had to see where I wanted the seat base to fit. Once I got it to fit, I drilled a single hole in the center of the seat to reference it to that T-piece that I had made. And then I took it out and I fabricated an entire undercarriage thing to the seat that mounted completely exactly the way I wanted it to. And now we have a final piece. So let me show you what I got. All right, so here's the final result. So as you can see, you got the lower T-piece that I had there. And then I went ahead and made a bracket that accepted the seat. Now there was a ton of, I use engineering loosely, but there was a ton of engineering had to go into this to make sure everything worked out. You can see the seat is slightly offset to the passenger side on the track. That's to allow the width of the seat and the arm guards up top to not interfere with the door or the post, and to allow for a cage in the future. I also did have to slightly modify this seat belt buckle. I'm probably not going to run this. Obviously, when I do drag strip stuff, we're going to have a 5-point harness. However, I would like to, in the future, be able to just have the option of putting a factory belt back in. So even though I have this mounted, I'm probably going to take it off. But I just wanted it to be there, so I knew that was the case. I also had to allow for the crotch support belt of the seat to come through. I couldn't create anything that blocked this. So having that recess where I had this kind of hook like that allows the belt to come through without any interference. I also picked up the girthiest parts of the seat, and you can see there's actually an applied bend to grab the seat properly. So there's 5 bolts holding this seat in, all lock washered, and everything is fantastic. The seat actually works really well. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Like I said, it did take a lot of time to get it to the way I wanted to. Took the better part of half a day actually to kind of, just because I'm a one-man show, fitting the seat and then trying to reference it while I'm sitting in it, because if I got out, the seat would move, and it got really a lot complicated. I tried filming some of it, but I just couldn't capture it all on film. So anyway, the seat is more or less ready to go into the car. All I want to do now is clean up the interior, vacuum it up a little bit, get the carpet thrown in, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when we're done. Now, I know I said 10 out of 10 I would not recommend doing that, and that's only because that isn't for the faint of heart. There's no way that I could have bought one of those universal flat plate mount kits and got the fitment exactly the way I wanted. I have this dialed in, so let's take a look. Yes, now look at that. I love this. You know, this is the kind of look I was going for. You can see how it transitions into the back with the carpet. I was going for this kind of look. I don't want to go fully gutted. I want some fit and finish to this. And we're going to continue to develop this and really fine tune this setup. But as far as like the dash, I want to put that flocked early dash in it, and it's really going to come together. We'll probably put some removable steering wheel on there, something different, a little bit bigger. This is a 280 mil, which is probably the smallest Momo you can get. We're going to go up a little bit in size and put a removable hub on it, so that way I can get in and out a little easier, because this fixed back seat's a little bit challenging sometimes, especially being a big guy. You can also see I got tons of helmet clearance, which is what I really wanted to do to set this up. There is no way, because you can see the layback to the seat, there's no way I could have bought one of those universal kits and had this work. So I would have wasted a bunch of money, and I am so happy that I set this up this way. It wasn't easy, but the end result is fantastic, and I'm super excited about this. You can see kind of just how dialed in it is as far as even on the clearance of the B pillar. It allows for a cage to come down the side of the seat. But yeah, like I said, the black carpet really sets this off. The dash, when you go to the early dash, it'll just really work. And I'm super excited. At some point, I'm probably going to switch to a CAE shifter, get away from that's a short throw Mark IV O2J setup. So we'll probably keep the O2J cables, obviously, and switch up to a taller shifter. And like I said, a little bit of a bigger steering wheel. But we got other stuff to do today, so let's keep moving along. Super happy with how this turned out, guys. Again, I don't know what I'm gonna do for a passenger seat. I'll find something, probably something black, just to go with the whole black theme. We're gonna eventually switch up to some black door cards, black dash, which will be flocked. But that about ties us up for the interior. Drag cars aren't about the interior. I just wanted to get this step done because this is a big step in the right direction. So let's keep moving along. All right, now we're about ready to start talking slicks. But before we get into that conversation, there was a little bit of a change, actually a pretty big change I want to discuss with you guys. But again, before we move on to that, I quickly want to finish up this 1.8T mounting situation that we got into last week. Now remember, we started to mount that engine, but we ran into the problem of not having the correct hardware to get this engine onto that engine stand. I have it now, so let's quickly get that done and we'll start talking slicks. All right, just like that, there we go. Funny thing is, when you get these engines side by side, if you didn't know any better, which engine would you think was bigger? That's funny. Anyway, okay, over to the drag slicks. All right, let's talk drag slicks for a minute because there's been some changes here and I really want to keep you guys in the loop. Last week's episode, I talked about how I had a set of 13-inch drag front rims on order, and I was going to go 13s because there's a lot more choices for drag slicks in the 13-inch rim size that allowed for a taller sidewall to still fit within a smaller import car. While that still stands to be true, it is slightly more challenging to find a 15-inch small sidewall drag slick because there's thousands of choices of 15-inch drag slicks, but most of them come with a taller sidewall. A taller sidewall would require us to clearance the whole front of this car, and that was something I wasn't wanting to do, so I went with a 13-inch front. One thing that I forgot that would change all of that was my approach to getting back into drag racing was through Friday night street legals. That being said, my intention was to go to a few of these events, 3 or 4 or whatever, get used to going to the track again, get used to the lights, get used to running the car, get the car kind of dialed in and figure out where the car would land consistently. Bless your guys' heart, you guys think this car is going to be a little quicker than I do. I think this car is going to be mid-13s. Some of you guys think it'll be a little bit faster. I would love to be faster, but let's wait and see. Again, I'm trying to be conservative with that. Anyway, the point was to get back to these Friday night street legals, comfortable with the track, comfortable with the car, find a time where we could kind of choose a dial in. Once we were confident in a consistent dial in, if you guys don't know what dial in is, we'll talk about that when we get to the track. I was intending to enter into the professional grouping of racing at the track under the import bracket racing series. That being said, SLICKS apply. Of the one thing what I forgot to do is after I filmed last week's episode, I started going through the tech manual, figuring out what else I needed to do to the car to get it to be approved once I brought it to the track. Last thing I want to do is drive all the way out to the track, get ready to race and have some little small tech item I overlooked not allow the car to pass tech, and then I have to go all the way home and we lose out on the event. So going through the tech manual, one of the biggest things I totally forgot about was you have to be 100% street legal to run at Friday night street legals. That being said, SLICKS do not apply. They're not DOT approved. So I actually can't run a slick at this event. So having said that, I quickly went online and looked at what was available to me locally for a really aggressive 13-inch tire. There are some, but there's not a lot. So that being said, there's a lot more choices of aggressive street tires in a 15-inch rim than there is in a 13. The opposite effect of the SLICKS. So since we're starting out in the ET section, I thought it best be fit that we actually order an aggressive street tire versus starting off with SLICKS, since we can't under the Friday night street legal events. So I quickly hopped on the phone, called the company I ordered the wheels from and said, oh guys, is there any way you can put a stop to my order? They said, yeah, no problem. We've boxed everything up. We just haven't shipped it out yet. So I said, great. I'm actually going to make a change. Can we change the fronts to 15s? Now, they obviously were great and allowed me to do that. But for us, what does that mean? Well, since we're entering back into drag racing under the Friday night street legals, to get comfortable, I would much rather enter in a wheel, because I said this car needs to be street and strip, means we need to be able to drive it on the road. I would much rather have more choices of aggressive street tires for the car than slick options. Because really, when you think about how much I'm driving on the street versus how much I need access to slicks, street tires override slicks most of the time. ET streets like these ones are, these are 15-inch, they are a smaller sidewall. These would be a great option for those times that we get into bracket racing. But for all the times you need to be on the street, I need the more choice and more availability for aggressive street tires in a 15-inch tire. So, that being said, since I was able to go back to a 15, I actually don't need to change the brakes anymore. So I asked for that front wheel to be in a 5x100. So now we don't need to change anything. We can actually keep everything the same. That being said, I have these. I bought these from somebody locally not too long ago. These are a 15-inch drag slick. I would love to throw this on and just see how it fits. If it fits really nice, I'm going to find an aggressive street tire in roughly this size. And we're going to keep these wheels for the events that we can run slicks. And we'll run slicks on these, and then we'll run an aggressive street tire on my new 15-inch fronts that are coming. So I think that combination will work a lot better. We'll save a great deal of money not having to change these brakes, and I can take that money I was going to put into these brakes and actually invest it into the car, whether that's through suspension mods, through engine modifications, through some interior upgrades. We save some money, which is always a great thing. And I just wanted to talk about that, guys, with you, so you know when I show up now with the 15-inch wheel, you know where that all came from. So let's throw these on the car, let's see how they fit, and let's go from there. Oh brother, here we go. This is starting to come together now. The tires fit pretty good. I had to adjust the camber on the passenger side because the tire was rubbing the strut a little bit. But we adjusted that out, probably because it was cambered too much in, but here we go. Starting to look a little bit like a drag car. All right, that about does it for this week's episode. We got a lot accomplished. We got, the car kind of figured out, sorted. We got a lot more work to do, but we definitely have some goals and some plans, and I couldn't be any more excited. Just looking at it right now gets me super excited to hit the track. We also got the 180 is planned up on the stand. So that's about it for part 2 of this week's episode. Watch for more. We're going to get a lot more done on this car, and we're going to take this car to the track, and I can't wait for that. But before we head off on today's episode, I figured we got some slicks on it. Why don't we give them a shot? How much fun is this car going to be? If you don't currently subscribe to this channel, I highly recommend that you do. Until next time, guys, take care.